Wow. I have to say, I am so excited to have you in front of me. You're such a beautiful woman who I haven't seen in a very long time face to face, but to see you in front of me on the screen, it's absolutely amazing. I'm just going to introduce you. Scarlet Fitzgerald is a self-love and sensuality coach on a mission to empower women to embrace their sensuality, stand in their power, live their truth, and unapologetically love themselves. Oh, so powerful, so beautiful. And to be honest, knowing you, so you. Now, I met you, gosh, it must be about 6 years ago. We met at a conference and it was love at first sight. I remember after like 3 days, I think it was, that we just felt like, oh my gosh, how can we say goodbye to each other? There was just this soul connection. And even when I listen to what you're doing now and I watch you thrive, I know the seeds that were already there, and it's so beautiful to see them blossom over time. So thank you for joining me in conversation today. And now I met you as Yelena. So I want to know how and why the transformation to Scarlet. How did that happen? Talk to me about that shift.
Thank you, darling. It's so beautiful to be here. I'm so excited to be here with you. Yeah, it's definitely been an incredible journey. I went on a deep personal transformation, and my coach, who is Kate Harlow, an incredible coach, teaches this concept of the saboteur and the heroine. So the saboteur is the parts of you that don't let you be yourself, don't let you live your best life. And the heroine is your truth. So when I got on a discovery call with her, when I was just undergoing my journey, she asked me, and what would your heroine's name be? And without thinking about it, the words just came out of my mouth. I was like, she is Scarlet. and I had no idea where that came from. But I knew in that moment when she said those words, I knew in that moment that was the true me hiding inside of Yelena. So when I went on the retreat in Italy with her, that's where she started doing them. That's who I became. Everybody called me that. And so actually everybody in my transformation journey circle has been calling me Scarlet for almost 4 years now. But wonderful. this is my big coming out, I guess, to the public as Scarlet.
Yes.
And it just feels like stepping into the full expression of who I am. And it feels really fantastic to decide who I want to be. It's our names are given to us by our parents. And we never question it. And I do love the name Yelena. I think it's a beautiful name. But yes. I love being able to choose consciously who I am. So I feel like, stepping into someone that feels truly authentic to me is saying, hey, we don't have to just take whatever we're given. We can consciously choose who we choose to be.
Yes. Yes. I love that story. And there are a few people that I've known in my life who've changed their names, but there are very few that it feels so natural. To call you Scarlet doesn't even feel like, hang on, are you Yelena? Are you Scarlet? It just rolls off the tongue, and you really do embody the energy of what I feel that name brings, So I think that's wonderful. And I think it's really powerful the way you phrased it, to be able to consciously choose or decide who we want to be. And by taking that name that represents that frequency. So I go by Simone. Everyone knows me as Simone Niles. Having said that, that's my middle name. A lot of people don't know this, but my first name is Melanie. And there were a lot of people in my childhood where I grew up that would have called me Melanie in school. And it all came about through some kind of paperwork. But even though Melanie, there was a point in my life that after a while, it felt like that was my name as well. Just as easily as someone would say Simone or Melanie, I'd turn around. But having the last 15 years, maybe even a little bit more than that, really resonating with Simone, which is what my closest and dearest people call me, my family, my husband, everyone calls me Simone, who's really close and dear to me. Melanie, actually, the resonance of that no longer feels as congruent. I honor the name. I love the name. I have an expression of it. But if someone calls me Melanie now, it feels very different in terms of what I feel I cultivate as Simone. So I completely relate, though they were both my given names, I completely relate to what you're saying about the frequency of name. And
Yes.
you know, I think that's stunning that you consciously choose where you want this frequency and resonance to be in that name. So welcome to the
Yeah.
world, Scarlet.
Thank
Woo!
you very much. Thank you.
Well,
I love
well,
it.
to
It
your
feels like a
coming out
very,
party.
yes, it feels like a very sensual name. And it really, you know, it's not, when the words came out of my mouth, I was like, where did that come from? Because it's not for, you know, Scarlett O'Hara or Scarlett Johansson or any of the famous Scarlets. I think it's the color, right? Red has always been my color, especially Scarlet Red. So I think that's where that came from. And it's just the embodiment of this passionate, sensual energy. And so having it in my name just feels right.
Yes, it looks right too. I always loved you in red, you know this. And in fact, I remember way back, I know you've done this for me in the past. I think it might have been when I first met you. I had some image consultancy stuff happening. You did my colors to let me know what's the palette that works best with my complexion and what's the kind of colors of clothing that would really complement. So of course, I know that you started as an image consultant. Tell me what inspired you over the years to become a coach. How did you make that transformation yourself?
Absolutely, yes. So as you know, I started doing image consulting back in 2012. And so that was, you know, that was my business for a number of years. And as an image consultant, what I do is bring out somebody's natural beauty and align it to what is showing up on the outside. So I was really trained well, and kind of the way that I did my business was always not to be prescriptive with what I told women to wear. I don't follow fashion trends necessarily or anything like that. It was about figuring out who the woman is in front of me and making sure that that beauty shines on the outside. My talent, I would always say, my talent is to see the potential in someone and then show them that potential so that they see it themselves and believe it too. And so I've always been drawn to that work. But after going through my personal transformation with Kate that I shared earlier about, I realized that sometimes, because of our conditioning, because of all the things that we have learned from society, because of all the pressures, because of all the things, who we think we are is not necessarily who we actually are. And it takes a lot of deep work and deep digging to truly understand who we are. So I felt like I had to share that with my clients and go even deeper. And that's why I decided to start coaching. And through studying under Kate and then learning, you know, I went crazy with it. You know, I read every book, I did all the trainings, I did all the things. And then really I was my best student. You know, I applied all of that to my own life. To live my truth finally after all these years. And I feel called to do this work to help women truly align who they are and show that on the outside. So what I'm doing currently in my business is actually doing the deep inner work to figure out who they are, and then using all of my image consulting background to actually help them truly fully embody that on the outside. So it's a very deep transformational journey from the inner work to the outer work.
What a wonderful marriage of two things. I think that's amazing. I know even for myself personally, you know, we have either the expressions of dress not just to impress, but dress how you want to feel, you know, wear what, you know, and I think that's so important. But equally, if you don't actually know what you're wanting to bring forth or you're wanting to express, which is why I completely relate and love that you're doing the inner work and the deeper work to help people figure those things out. And as you know, in my business, I work a lot in alignment. It's really helping people align the inner and outer so they can find more meaning and, you know, alignment in their work and their life. And what I love is that you're focusing on the sensuality and that inner and outer expression. So I would wonder if there are any tips kind of right off the bat, if there is one tip perhaps that you think, I feel really out of alignment. A woman comes to you, I don't know who I am anymore. I've been doing this and that. I don't feel myself, and I can feel that I'm not dressing in the way that I really want to. What's one of the first things you might do, or a good tip for anyone listening who could think, how could I start this journey?
Absolutely. Honestly, the first thing to do is get quiet. Is get quiet. Yeah. To turn off all the noise, the outside noise, because that's really what it's about, is learning to trust our intuition. We have all the answers. And, before I did the work myself, I really didn't believe that. I relied heavily on my mind my whole life. And now I understand that our intuition, our body holds all the wisdom that we will ever need. The problem is learning to tap into it. So that's part of that. That's a big chunk of what I do in the program, is helping people tap into that inner knowing. It's not about what I think you should do or what anybody thinks you should do. It's about shutting all that noise out and truly going within. So the first step I would say is truly take some time off the noise. Go for a walk without headphones, without your phone, without any distractions. Go sit out on the balcony in the morning sun and close your eyes and just be. There's a lot of people are scared at first of meditation, and it just feels overwhelming, and then it's like, oh, I can't shut off my mind. That's fine. Just try anyway. Just sit and be, and don't put any pressure on yourself. Just sit and listen. Just listen to whatever is going on inside, and that will start to give you some indications of where you actually want to be. And I think part of the reason we as a society don't do that is because we don't often like the dissonance that we find, right? Then that the whispering inside starts to say, I want more, I want something else. And it's like, oh no, I don't know how to do that. No way, and so then we just stuff it down, we put it away. So this work begins with admitting to yourself that there's some voice inside that says something else.
Yeah. Well, I have to say that I love that you went there. I wasn't expecting it, but I'm so glad that you did, because I think often, as a coach myself, I understand the philosophy behind, or let's say the coaching philosophy, that the client has all the resources within them. And a coach would really ask key questions or, powerful questions to help bring that out. But before you get to asking questions, it's so important to get still. And I love that you did not bypass that step and just went into, well, ask yourself all these questions, because if you ask yourself the questions, the answers might be screaming out at you, but you don't hear them.
Yeah.
So getting into that first step of silence, I love it. Take the distractions away, get into that space of silence, take a moment, whether it's a practice of meditation or not, it is about slowing down. And for me, meditation very much is the idea that people feel like we have to shut our minds off is not really, to me, what the practice of meditation is about personally. It is about letting the thoughts pass and not holding on to them and not giving them any power in those moments, and just allowing ourselves to get in touch with our body and our breath, or mantras, or whichever way you prefer to meditate, right? So that silence piece is phenomenal, because before you get to the questions, you need to be able to hear, or at least sense, that voice, that intuition that's going to give you the answers in the first place.
Yes. And so I'd like to share my way of meditating because it didn't involve sitting down on a cushion and meditating. I found meditation through dance.
Yes. Yes, I love that.
So that's actually where I discovered Scarlet, was on the dance floor. Dancing is something that I've been passionate about my whole entire life. And then, I didn't do it for a long time because it wasn't the proper thing to do as a good wife, blah, 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 right? But I rediscovered it. And for me, dance is the ultimate expression, embodiment. So it's the place for me where it's easiest to shut off my mind and go into my body. And so when I started to dance, and I do mostly partner dancing, when I started to dance, and the music and the beautiful connection, and your body is moving, and I would close my eyes, and that's when I started to hear myself. That's where that happens. So to me, that's where the meditation happens. It's moving meditation.
Yes.
I can hear myself clearly when I'm dancing. So that is what I found for myself as a place to hear my thoughts.
I'm so glad you shared that, because it really is poignant that we have to get away from thinking that there is the right way to sit on a cushion and sit in a lotus position and get this posture. That's the right and only way to meditate. I know for myself, singing and sounding, and I can just go on and off to some different world for a few hours in that space. That feels like meditation for me. Sometimes actually, which is funny that my husband said to me once, I go into a trance to myself when I'm cleaning my house. When I just go into something that's just unconscious and I'm just getting things done, I just go into my thoughts. I've heard of so many artists or writers or poets finding their best ideas sitting on the toilet, right? So we know that this is coming into our body and or releasing the hold on our thoughts and just going into a space of emptiness or spaciousness is meditation in whatever shape or form that is. But as an artist, musician myself, I completely relate to you talking about dance and movement. And I grew up in a culture where dancing and movement, I mean, I dance every day, that it's just part of, releasing and letting go and all of that. So finding that space, how wonderful. How wonderful. Thank you for making that point. It's incredibly important, I think, for anyone listening who thinks, oh, I don't want to get into meditation, but I do want to figure out what's going on inside so that I can now come out and just shine that in the way that I express myself outwardly. So I think that's really cool. I want to know, because I checked out your website and I know that your brand is Scarlet Sirens. And I love sirens, by the way. I love the whole, I don't want to say, not necessarily, because I know there are quite a few ideas around what a siren is. But when you go a bit deeper in the story, I love the whole feature of what that brings and what it embodies. So what is Scarlet Sirens? Tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, so honestly, I've been kind of obsessed with sirens since the 9th grade, like Greek mythology class, right? Because there were these mysterious creatures, these women who were both feminine, incredibly feminine and alluring, and powerful, right? So that combination has always fascinated me of how to be feminine and powerful at the same time. And this journey has taken me down that path of figuring out how to be powerful in our femininity and our sensuality. So to me, a siren has natural power, and she doesn't have to learn how to do it. She just has to exude it. And that is the state that I want women to be in, that I want them to feel like they don't have to go and find it from someone else, that they already have it. A siren is mesmerizing and magnetic. That's her power, right? Irresistible. And that, for a woman to feel like she walks in the world as someone who is absolutely magnetic to whatever she desires, that is the state of mind that I want my clients to be in and the women around me to be in. So my belief is that every woman has that inner siren, and the program that I have, I help her kind of, embody it, bring it forth. So Scarlet Sirens are my graduates. The women who go through my program become these embodied women who are sirens. And of course, there's a lot of folklore about sirens, that could be taken in a negative connotation, so intention matters behind that power, right? So what I'm talking about here with sirens is self-empowerment, not power over anybody else, but that self-empowerment. So turning all of that power and love onto the self. So loving, accepting yourself, feeling into your truth, knowing how to walk in the world with boundaries and understanding of who you are, and not apologizing for it anymore. So that's who a siren is to me. So yeah, my ladies are sirens to me. They're queens, goddesses, and sirens, because they all have that natural power inside them, and all they need to do is give themselves permission to bring it out.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I'd be curious to ask you, in your opinion, working with women in this way, where do you think the apologies are born? So we want people to unapologetically just, oh, this is who I am. Why do you feel women want to apologize for all of that power and, magnetism and all of this?
Yes. Oh, that's such a good question. Such a big question. It's actually one of the first things we explore in the program is where do these beliefs come from? A lot of it, society, right? But what does that mean, society? So culturally, religions, patriarchy, all of these belief systems that tell women that we are supposed to be givers, that we are supposed to put everybody else first, that putting yourself first is selfish and inappropriate, and that's not what a good woman does. So if we had, any in the past, a woman who was powerful and knew her mind and spoke her mind was labeled a witch and burned at the stake.
Yeah.
So there has been a lot of fear around a woman who is in her power, because a woman who is in her power in a feminine way is extremely powerful, and that's scary to a lot of people. And so it has been over time, over centuries, squashed down. So to come out from under it, it's not anybody's fault. We're conditioned from the time we're a little girl. Don't be so loud, sit down. Girls don't do that. There are so many messages that we receive starting from when we're young. And then, look at any Disney movie or romantic comedy. The girl can't go out and do whatever she wants. She's sitting there and waiting for Prince to come in and rescue her. Give meaning to her life.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So there's so much. That's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much of that underneath, and it's a little bit different for everybody depending on your family and the messages that you were taught in your family and so on. So for each woman, it's a little bit different, and learning to understand those voices, that's a key part of where did my story come from in my mind? Where did it originate? And is it truly mine? And is it true? And the answer is usually no, it's not mine, and no, it's not true. Yeah. And then the work begins of, okay, so what is true for me?
I'm willing and ready to change that story. Yeah. I'm ready to rewrite that and claim the power and shift that. It's it's not an easy path, but it's so needed. And I feel that the more we do this, the better the world would be. And I don't want to make it sound cliche, because I really believe that women need to stand up more and step into their power more, but also celebrate each other when we are in that power. Yes. Because if you're not yet shifted into yours, it can also be quite intimidating when women are in theirs. And it's important to celebrate that and lift each other up. We're not in a place of judgment. We're just in a place of evolving and, this evolution and this transformation. And it requires a maturity. It requires a need and a want and a willingness. and a willingness to go deep and look deep within, as you said, to the dissonance that might be lurking underneath. Because dissonance, certainly from a sound and sound therapy perspective, dissonance is important. It helps to shift stuck energy. So before you get into this harmony, and I know that you are a brilliant pianist as well, so you know about music and you understand how dissonance works in music and how it can create an edginess, so that when there's a resolve, the body just feels it. The body, the soul, the mind, we just relax into something different. So I really want to encourage women to be okay and be brave and courageous and daring to see that dissonance as just part of the process. Absolutely. As opposed to something to fear. I say this with a pinch of salt. I know it's easier said than done, but I really wish this, and I'm sure for the women that you work with, this is a lot of what you do.
Yes, absolutely. And so I'm glad that you brought up, how to be in this energy around other women. That's one of the key pillars in my work. So I kind of believe that there are three main pillars in the work that I do. It's self-love, which is coming to full acceptance and love for yourself, which is easier said than done, and requires a lot of that deep inner reflection and not running away from the dissonance, not hiding from that dissonance. It's sensuality, which in my definition, and people ask me about this all the time, sensuality, not the same thing as sexuality. Sensuality is using your senses to be embodied. So sensuality is all about being in the present moment. We, as a society, live either in the past or the future. We're constantly chasing the next thing, or we're, in analysis of the past. But really learning to be present, that is what sensuality is. And the third pillar is sisterhood. And Beautiful. That is probably the biggest part of doing this work. Not alone, right? So in the program, it's not just me who is guiding and leading through the work, but it's the other sisters in the group that get to witness your growth, and you get to witness theirs. And a lot of the learning happens by watching your sisters go through their personal journey, because it's much easier to see the dissonance when you know someone and they're going through it in front of you. You can see it, and they may be in their mind, but it's very clear to you what's happening, and then that helps you with your own journey. Sisterhood is so powerful. It's so powerful. And, if you think about society back, way, way, way back, that's how women were. They were in community. They did everything in community, right? As women used to rear children together and cook together and have rituals together. And we went away from all of that. So, the feminine energy in our society is missing. So having sisterhood is bringing us back to that feeling of love and support for one another. And when you go through this type of journey together with other women, there is no competition in there. There's none of the stuff that we've learned to associate with, women and cattiness and all that stuff. There's none of that, because you love your sisters like chosen family. And it's so incredibly powerful and beautiful to witness. So, those are the three big pillars for me.
And I know that self-love is also a very big topic. And I talk about that a lot in my work. And I talk about, loving yourself and creating the frequency in yourself so that you can attract what you want elsewhere, right? And so what do you think is the biggest struggle in this area for the women that come to you? Because I know that there are a lot of components. So I'm not going to make it a really small, it's not a small topic, but I'm just curious, in your experience so far, what do you think is the biggest struggle in loving self?
I think we get the messaging from an early age that loving self is selfish.
Right.
And we're told that selfish is like this terrible thing, that you're self-centered. And I don't believe that self-centered is the same thing as loving yourself. They're completely
Self-care
different
as well,
things.
and loving yourself. Of course they are. Yes.
So the truth is, because of what we're taught, that we're supposed to give until we have nothing left, and so many women are operating in this state of being where they're empty. They've given as much of themselves as possible, and they're just surviving on a day-to-day, rather than learning how to give to yourself so that your cup is filled with the things that make you feel more alive, that make you feel like you have fuel in your tank, and then giving from that place, and then loving and caring and sharing and doing all the things for everyone from a place of more balance in your own self. Giving from a place of depletion is actually not serving anyone.
No.
Because giving from obligation, it doesn't feel good to the receiver either. Or if it does, that's a whole another conversation, but really, learning to treat yourself the way you do your loved ones should not be seen as selfish. It's not selfish.
No.
It's,
of course not. Yeah.
It's vital. I mean, it's really vital to living and thriving and feeling alive every day. If you don't give to yourself, you teach others not to either, and so then there's nothing coming in. You have to believe that you deserve to love yourself.
Absolutely.
And
and I mean, there's something that my mom always said to us, and it was to have an overflowing cup. So the idea is that you give from the overflow and your cup is always full. So it's not even just having a full cup, which I hear often, fill up your cup and then, but if your cup is full and you're giving out of that full cup, then it goes down as you dish out and give out. But if you have an overflowing cup, which is the self-care, the self-love, the, putting yourself first, treating yourself with the respect and love that you treat others and all the things that you've just said, then there's plenty to go around. And as you said, easier said than done. I have to say, even in my own experience of being able to take time for myself, but it mostly came through mothering and motherhood as opposed to general. Having said that, there is a point where, yes, you are a mother and you are also a woman. And that is parallel to motherhood. That isn't that you have your kids and then all of a sudden you can go back to being this woman that you might have been prior. You are a woman and a mother, and those two things can be married beautifully. And that was something that I learned over time. I have to say I was very lucky to have a supportive other whole who would say, take time for yourself. Don't worry about this. Don't even think about that. Or, just, give me the slap in the face when I was like, I need to do this. No, go and spend some time by yourself. I was so fortunate. Not every woman has that. But what that has helped me remind me to do is to do it for myself and to really focus on that so that I can be there more in quality for the people around me and the people that I serve, whether that's my children, my family, my clients, whoever. And so I completely relate. And I love that you're really digging into the nuggets of what needs to come forth. And I hope people listening are picking up these things. And even if it's just igniting the questions, okay, well, I get that, but how? There's a lot of how and help. So don't let the questions go on the side. Don't push down the dissonance. Ask those questions. And as we said at the start, go into silence and just start to sit with yourself and be and see what wants to come forth.
Absolutely. Yes. And that's a huge piece. When we ask women, describe yourself, tell us about yourself, right? Usually the first things are, well, I'm a wife and I'm a mother and I work here and I do this, and it's all about what she does. And if you ask her, okay, so outside of those roles that you're playing in life, who are you? That question, sometimes crickets, right? Because maybe she hasn't even asked herself that. And of course, when she digs deeper, she understands and discovers, and sometimes it's like this mind-blowing realization, like, oh my gosh, you know, at my heart and at my core, I'm an artist, I'm a creative, and I need to express that every day of my life. You know, that was me. That was what I realized. You know, I need to create every single day of my life to feel like I'm living my best life. And if I don't do that, then something doesn't feel quite right. So each woman is individual, is exciting, is unique, is divine, is exactly who she was created to be, and we've just forgotten. So this process is about remembering who we are. You know, it's Kate Harlow says it's coming home. It's coming home.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not just living our life as if, you know, we're going to play this role, and then at the end we get to start all over doing us. Like, we only have the one, you know, at least in this consciousness here in this moment. So this is it. So if you feel like, oh, I'll do that thing that I dream about later, or when I retire, or, you know, whenever, that's an indication that your soul is already crying out for something. It's already wanting something, and you're telling it to wait. But it's your soul.
Yeah.
Don't leave it behind.
Yeah, another saying that I grew up with is the soul knows, and the rest of you just needs to catch up.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
I very much relate. I've probably said that like 1,000 times in my lifetime already, because it really resonates with me. And I wanted to kind of touch on that, what you're saying, because again, in the work that I think a lot of people, whether it's coaches, healers, or people who help people to transform, I think I will generalize and say that what the commonality and understanding around a lot of this work is that we at our essence are truly beautiful, perfect. This is the essence of who we truly are. And all the things that we're wanting to shift is just peeling back those layers to reveal the gem that's already existed, and that's, you know, just there waiting to be seen. And we know that with that gem and the peeling back of layers, there is, you know, peeling back and going over the things that might have happened in our lives that have been hard, whether it's something traumatic or, you know, the conditioning, as you've mentioned, and all of those things. It takes time and willingness and work. But in the end, we all have this beautiful essence that exists within us all. I truly believe it. And in the potential of all human beings being able to, you know, rediscover that.
Yes.
Not necessarily the capability or capacity, but the potential. And it certainly is a big wish of mine for that to be the case. In fact, I want to ask you now, because it certainly is my definition of healing, is that healing, coming back to who we are. As you say, Kate said, coming home. For me, it's coming back to our truest essence. So what would you say, if anything different, is your definition of healing?
To me, healing is deciding to suffer less. Right? So, you know, I was born in Russia, and the Russian culture is all about suffering. You know, it's something, we almost like wear it with pride, you know. Oh, this bad, and this hurts, and you know. And I think for the most part, or for most of my life at least, because we're, you know, thinking about what other people think of us or what we should be doing, and, you know, so there's a lot of suffering that gets created as a result. Like, oh, I didn't do that right. Oh, this person is going to be mad at me. Oh, this and that and the other, right? And we create this suffering. We allow the suffering to occur in our mind. You know, and that's in addition to illnesses and trauma and all the rest of it. But just the daily, even things that we fret about and worry about, especially if you're prone to anxiety, like I am, you know, that's a part of me that doesn't go away. But for me, the healing journey has been about reducing that kind of suffering to as little as possible, right? To making different choices instead of sitting in it, like, oh, I messed up at work, and now I'm just going to sit in it and feel bad about myself and beat myself up some more. Instead of doing that, it's knowing, okay, all right, so that didn't go well. What did I learn from it? And also, I forgive myself. And that can be a very difficult thing for people to come to, right? I forgive myself. And moving on from that. So that has been kind of a major focus for me in my healing journey, is loving myself and accepting myself and forgiving myself, no matter what I did or what I thought or what I felt like I did wrong, and truly feeling into that. And I have to say, you know, over the past couple of years, where I would have taken, you know, weeks or months to sit in the suffering about something, you know, now it can be hours or even minutes sometimes. And then I say, okay, all right, I let myself feel it, and I move forward with it. And that's a huge part of it as well, is allowing yourself to feel the feelings, right? That's a big part of the work, is not stuffing it away. We're often taught to put uncomfortable feelings away.
Shut it off.
Yeah. So it is truly, you know, if you're feeling like, oh, I messed up, and like let yourself feel all that. And once you do, it's done, it's gone. So move it through your body, let it out, release it, and move forward. Rather than the more we stuff it, the more it just sits there like a, you know, infection.
Of course. I mean, I speak about emotion in that way. Emotion is energy in motion.
Yes.
And that's all. And so, yes, letting the energy move through you rather than trying to hold on to it and stuff it into a space then where it then becomes manifest into something uncomfortable in your body. Just let it through, let it flow through you. But I wanted to kind of touch on what you said, because I really loved, I haven't had that take on healing before, which I really love. This deciding to suffer less. I think that's very potent. It speaks to the many people that either I've spoken to or read about who have been given their death sentence, whether it's in the hospital or this is, you know, near death experiences, who said, I decided to live. You know, and there is something really beautiful in that piece of a conscious decision that you are not going to accept what, you know, cards you were dealt. You're going to decide to suffer less, to do something else. But also in that, I can hear and sense from you this, when you can decide and make this decision to decide to suffer less, you're also surrendering to, as you said, just let it be, just don't fight it. Surrendering to what I think ultimately is this natural, innate healing mechanism that we all have, whether that's a physical one, a mental one, a spiritual one, however you want to look at it. We are born, we get a cut. We don't, you know, the cut gradually heals itself and either leaves a scar or just goes completely away. This isn't something that we have to teach ourselves to do. This is just a natural physical ability in our body, which I believe happens energetically and in other ways as well. So I think that decision really cultivates a new path and opens the doors to a new way of feeling and being that then allows the innate nature of healing to just take over. So I love your way of coming in. I really love that approach. So thank you for sharing that. I think it's going to be interesting for a lot of people, but also it gives everyone something very practical. You know, I have such a bad headache. Everything's so awful right now. Decide to suffer less. In that moment, what would be the first step you could take to suffer less? Breathe. You know, do the things that might ease your headache, whether it's drinking more water, if it's dehydration, if it's something else and you need to take medication, then that's your choice. Whatever you do, you're making a decision to suffer less. I so love that. I'm going to be like flying with that from now on. I think it's an amazing approach to it. So I really appreciate that take. And so I know you teach a lot of people and help a lot of people to go, you know, overcome obstacles in their life and in the many different ways that you do. And I'm curious about you, like some of the obstacles that you may have encountered in your life and maybe one or two ways that you've used to overcome them so far.
Sure. Obstacles. Well, so I call myself a recovering people pleaser. And that's a lot of my journey is, you know, getting away from that and, you know, finally doing things in my life that I want to do. because I want to do them, and not feeling like I have to do everything that everybody asks. So hopefully that's relatable to a lot of the women listening, or anyone listening. So some of the challenges with that are boundaries, right? So boundaries are such a huge challenge for many people. So that has been a tremendous part growth for me, is establishing healthy boundaries in my life. So, when, let's say, 3 different friends call you on the same night and they really need, something, and they're like, oh, just, 5 minutes of your time, blah, blah, blah. So, and you're thinking, oh my God, like, I just need a quiet moment. I had a 10-hour workday. Like, I just need a moment. Self-love and boundaries is literally just saying, okay, I can't give to my friends right now because I have nothing. I am depleted and I need to take a moment to refill my tank. And then I can actually be there for them and give them the value that they deserve to get from me.
Absolutely.
That is the thing. So I have really been doing the work with that, with establishing the healthy boundaries, and putting them in place. And at first, this is the thing that happens when you start putting boundaries up. Other people don't like it. Other people who are used to you always doing what they said, they don't like it. So you have to be okay with that. And that's part, like, that's where the sisterhood is so important. When you're like, oh my God, but my family, my friends, they're mad at me, or, and then the sisters say, nope, stand your ground. You have put up reasonable, healthy boundaries, and they will learn to understand and accept them.
Absolutely.
And
not, but that's or also not. Okay.
Absolutely. Yes. I'm glad you said that. Or not. Right. And so a lot of my friendships actually changed over the past several years. I recognized where there were people in my life who always expected me to give and never reciprocated. Well, they're no longer part of my life, and that is good. And then those who do want to be a part of your life, they accept it. And actually, what I found is they respect it more and they value your time even more. So when you put up those healthy boundaries, not only are you serving yourself and you are in a better place, but your friends also know what to expect. When a yes is a yes, then they know it's a true yes. And when it's a no, they know that there's a reason that you said no, that you have to take care of yourself. But when it's a yes, it's an honest yes, and they can trust that. And that's huge in a friendship or in any relationship, is knowing that, and knowing that the person is not doing something out of obligation.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. I, like you, I've, for a long time, I think, especially being an entrepreneur and working for myself, I've had to learn, even in that setting, our children grew up with us working from home. Both my husband and I, worked for ourselves and set the space up in a way that we could do what we needed to do. And so there were points where the door is open, you can come in anytime. And there were points where, no, mom's at work. Because when you're at home, often people don't recognize that. I had friends who would think, oh, I can call Simone, she's home. And I'm like, no, I'm at work. You might think that I'm at home because I'm in my house, but this is my workspace. And when I'm at work, just like I wouldn't call someone else who's in a corporate office working 9 to 5 any time of the workday, it's the same principle. But you have to, and it comes back to what you've said and repeated many times, teach people how to treat you.
Yes.
I take full responsibility for those things. So the boundaries that are in place are really important. They're really, really important because it cultivates much healthier relationship to self and to others. And I do agree with you that sisterhood is incredibly important in this. I've had a few friends say to me, it took me a little bit of getting used to, because I used to think you just, and then you didn't, and then I felt away. And then I'll say, oh, I'm so glad you were able to communicate that to me, because me doing that was not about you. But I'm glad that you were able to recognize that, come to terms with that, and still come to me knowing that when I can show up, I will be 110% there for you, because that's just how I am. So I love that you are bringing the sisterhood into it, and some friendships will thrive in that way, like ours, I'm sure. And then some, well, we outgrow people and
Mhm.
ways of being. So this is just the nature of life, right? The
Absolutely.
nature of the beast, as they say.
Yes, right. And not holding on to things like that no longer serve us, and we're just trying to hold on
Yeah.
for the sake of it. It's a constant
Mm,
reassessment of, is this in alignment with my life right now? And if
yeah.
it's a yes, then it's a clear
If it
yes.
isn't,
And
yeah,
if there's some feeling inside that it's a no, then that's worth looking into.
100%. Oh, my heart is full. It's so wonderful to speak to you. Where can people find you online, Scarlett?
So my website is scarletsirens.com, and
Mm-hmm.
the same thing. So on Facebook, it's Scarlet Sirens is the page, and then I have a private Facebook group as well. That's called Scarlet Sirens, the Sensual Sisterhood is the
Beautiful.
Facebook page, and Scarlet Sirens on Instagram. And yeah, they can always message me directly on any of those
Brilliant.
accounts.
Yeah.
And
I
I
will, of
look.
course, make sure to put all of those links
Thank
below,
you.
for any woman really wanting to step into that alignment, with her deep self, with this heroine, and bring that forward and express that beautifully into the world. I want to thank you so much, for your time and your love and your presence today. And I really want to celebrate you and all that you're doing, to help women, and I would say others, because, if you're helping women, you're helping men as well, whether, even though it may be indirectly, really finding their way back to their truth, to that self acceptance, awakening that divine feminine in them, that self love that we spoke about, self confidence, and of course, self love. Um, and I have one more question for you, and that is, what is your soulful sound to the world? Just this desire or self prayer or desire that you wish upon the world.
Yes, yes. My desire is for every woman to give herself permission to love herself and to
Mm,
listen to her inner wisdom and to embrace embodied sensuality as a way of life.
mm. Hear that, hear that, women. Take that on board. And you all know how to reach this wonderful woman, Scarlet Fitzgerald. Thank you so much again for your time and
Thank
presence
you,
today. And I
Simone.
can't wait to see how things unfold for you. And I'll definitely have you come back on at some point in the future where we can take this conversation even further.
Amazing. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure.
Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please feel free to share it with your friends and remember to subscribe. From my heart to yours, sending you love, healing, and sound wherever you are.